and gentlemen, and welcome to Me Guys Show. Listen, I'm your host, Melvin Lars. And guys, as always, this evening you're going to have a phenomenal academic time. As you guys know, we focus this show, the Nobody Asked Me Guy, on academics. We don't waste your time with a lot of rhetoric and a lot of fluff and a lot of waste of time. This evening, we have with us none other than City Prosecutor Monique I. Davis. Now, listen, you guys will learn more than you expect to learn. We will talk about some things that we hope are relevant to you. Matter of fact, we know that they'll be relevant to you. And most of you that are watching right now, you know how the show format works. You have the opportunity to grab one of these cameras and come on and you FaceTime with myself or with Monique and ask questions for yourselves. Or you can put them in those monitors up there and I will ask those questions for you and she'll relay back to you. So again, good evening and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. We're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're going to get right into it. We know you guys are anxious and ready to go. So please allow me, first of all, to tell you a little bit about our illustrious attorney here, our city prosecutor, Miss Monique Davis. Now, Miss Davis attended the school in Nolens. Now, you guys from the South, we don't say New Orleans, we say Nolens. She attended McDonough 35 in Nolens, Louisiana. She has a Juris Doctorate from Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge. Also, most of you now with the Heisman Trophy being waved out there and all of that kind of thing, you football fans, you know about LSU. So without further ado, we just wanted to give you just a little bit about Attorney Davis. Attorney Davis, good afternoon.
Good evening, Mr. Lord.
Well, listen, we want you to know it's indeed a great pleasure having you here with us. And we just want to ask you, if you will, if you'd like to share a little more with our audience about maybe some of the experiences you've had as far as ascending to where you are now. Of course, it's not required, but if you feel comfortable doing that, if you share a few moments with our audience, a little bit more about the illustrious Dr. Monique. And I want to call you Dr. Monique.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, I am from New Orleans, Louisiana, as you said, and I have been here this time approximately 13 years. So this time, meaning my first job out of law school was here in Shreveport at the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. I was here for about 2.5 years. My oldest son was born here. And then I went back to New Orleans. After the hurricane, I went to Dallas for about a year and then decided I hated Dallas and I needed to come back to Louisiana. So the guy who was my supervisor at the time always told me, if you ever want to come back, you're welcome to come back. And I did, and I've been here since then. I'm currently working with the city of Shreveport as a prosecutor in Shreveport City Court. And I've been here, I think I just made 6 years in August. So I love what I do. I get an opportunity to help people and also help our community. So that's the little bit of it. I am a graduate of Southern University Law Center, and I've been practicing now for, I think, about 24 years.
Wow. That's very interesting. And again, and already you're getting thumbs up. So I know we have some Jaguars on here and some individuals that have to share. But listen, I do want to do one thing, Dr. Monique, is I do want to just share with our audience. I know the topic says, so you want to be an attorney, but we always like our audience to know is that that's just a generic topic. And guys, you may hear us talk about many different things that's related to law, related to being an attorney, etc. So we want to just share that with you as we get started. So listen, let's just dive right into this thing, Dr. Monique. Now I know a lot of times many people talk about I want to be a lawyer. Many times people talk about the law in and of itself, and we hear the word prosecution and defendant and that kind of thing. If you will, just as we get started, if you can kind of clarify for us what's the real role of the prosecutor? Because many people are not clear on that.
Okay, so in Shreveport City Court, the prosecutor, and that's generally sometimes assistant district attorneys are referred to as prosecutors. but we are the agency that actually goes in and presents criminal cases. That's what we handle here in Shreveport City Court, and they are misdemeanor cases. So anything that has a potential sentencing range of $1,000 and or 6 months in jail, then we will handle those cases here. We do prosecute city ordinances as well as some state charges that are under or misdemeanor charges. So we prosecutors work for the city, and we are sworn in as special prosecutors for the district attorney's office. And by that, we can actually prosecute those state charges. So prosecutor is the person that you see in court, and they're presenting the evidence. They're talking to the judges, talking to defense attorneys. And a lot of times here, I'm actually talking to people who have charges before the court. So that's anything from traffic tickets to DWIs and domestic abuse battery charges. We just kind of run the gamut of it. So the prosecutor will be the person who is there to present the case on behalf of the city or on behalf of the state of Louisiana to the judge. Now, at city court, we do not have juries. So everything that we try will go before a judge. There will be no jury. The judge will make the decision on the cases that way.
Okay, well, that's great. Listen, okay, Jan from Venezuela. Jan, thank you for being here. Jan is asking what cases, or what she her actual question is, what types of cases do you see most? Thank you, Jan.
Here at Shreveport City Court, again, we run the gamut of things. So they are going to be misdemeanor matters, but I have dockets where we have domestic abuse battery charges, simple battery charges, disturbing the peace, public intoxications. And then we also have times where we prosecute DWI charges, and that will be first offense DWI and or second offense DWI. Once you get to a third offense in Louisiana, that is a felony charge, and that would go over to district court. So anything from a traffic ticket, we also handle some zoning ordinance cases. We handle property standards cases. So we're just kind of all over the board with misdemeanor matters.
Well, listen, Jan, thanks for that question, by the way. I know we are happy that you're interested to know. Now, Dr. Monique, you know, we, the general public, love to think we know saying innocent until proven guilty. And most anyone that you run into, if given any inkling of something that may have occurred where the law is involved, you know, we love to throw that term around, innocent until proven guilty. Now, most of us obviously understand that's a, quote, understood entity, but then again, it's really not always understood. Can you shed a little light on that phraseology for us? Now, we know, again, allow me to say, we know obviously you say, okay, innocent until proven guilty. But we also know there are many times mitigating circumstances that go along with that. Can you touch on situations like that? I know you can't talk about specific cases or individuals or anything like that, but can you just generically maybe share something that may have appeared to have been the person was innocent until proven guilty, or persons, but it wasn't necessarily the case at the end? Does that make any sense?
It does. I would have to say that is the standard in criminal cases in Louisiana. It is innocent until proven guilty. The city and or state or whatever prosecuting municipality agency does have to prove in a criminal matter beyond a reasonable doubt that the person has committed an offense. Now, we often have and hear of times where a person was innocent and has been convicted. There are a lot of different things that go into that, but the standard is innocent until proven guilty. A person does not have to do anything in defense of themselves the prosecuting authority is responsible for putting out the evidence and allowing the trier of facts. Here at Shreveport City Court, that would be a judge. In other agencies where they're not just misdemeanor matters, and there are some misdemeanor matters that do require that a jury be involved if a defendant asks for that. But here, the city is responsible for proving to the judge that the person is guilty.
Okay. Now I keep looking up because we have David. David, can you put in there where you're from, please? But David is saying that when, and I'm trying to read this, when one has been seen by a judge or when something has been heard, but there's information that comes later, once they may have been convicted, what do you do about a situation like that? David, I want to try to quote you as closely as I can. I'm having a little difficulty understanding the print here. Feel free to take one of these cameras and come on if you like. But David, what do you do if you've already been convicted, but evidence comes up later that may change the verdict?
Okay, so let me just first say this, and I don't think that we went over it. So I am not providing any specific legal advice for anyone tonight. We're just talking in very general terms. Right. If there are some circumstances that an individual finds that there may be something different, if you were in fact represented by an attorney at the time, I would suggest that you go back to that attorney to see if what remedies you may have.
David, did that answer your generic question, the basic question? Okay, thank you. Yeah, he's giving you a thumbs up. So listen, okay, as we move forward and we don't want to bore you, Doc, or put you to sleep. But if you will, because I know a lot of times, and we do right now, see we have some young people listening. If you could just give us maybe one caveat that our young people might start to do now while they're in high school, if they have an interest in law that they may kind of pursue. Just one.
Okay. What I tell people now is think about medical school. So a lot of, I think, things that affect younger people now, and when I was growing up, when I was in college, when I was in law school, we did not have, I guess, the benefit and or curse of social media. People, young people, old people even, put things out on the internet now, and those things will follow you. Those are things that you can't always retract. I think that especially if you are interested in going into some type of professional field, and even if not, that we have to think about and remember the image that we are putting out when we're on social media. So you don't ever want somebody, and I think we've seen recently some instances where either actors and or comedians or other individuals, even there was recently a governor that you go out, you put something out there, and then later you have to explain. And it may, at the time, it may have seemed like a good idea, and it may have seemed like something that, oh, this is funny and I want to share this. But to later have to explain to an individual or to a group of individuals who don't have the context of how that situation occurred, then you're put at a disadvantage. So I think that we have to guard our reputations in the beginning, and that starts when you're in high school. That starts when you're in college. Now, in order for most professional fields, you have to complete a character and fitness evaluation. So they look at the things that you were doing when you were younger, instances that you've had. So you want to be able to go into anything with a clean reputation and start at square one. That is some character and fitness will keep a lot of people out of different professions. And it may very well have been for something that, it was a joke, or it just kind of turned out badly, the situation, and then the evidence is out on social media. So almost everyone now looks at social media accounts before they make decisions on people, hiring, admission into colleges. So I think that you have to be careful about your reputation, because somebody who has the grades, who has the degree, and then you have a horrible reputation, that may prevent you from reaching your goals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I might add, as you're sharing, is that we often find, especially those of us that are older, is that information that's is kind of like a credit report, information that's erroneous, that's out there, then and people decide what they're going to believe, what they're not going to believe, and that kind of thing. Which is a great segue. We have a young lady from Houston, Texas, named Shannon. Well, forgive me. I'm assuming it looks to be spelled. If you're a guy, please accept my apology. So we have an individual from Houston, Texas, named Shannon, and Shannon is saying, with all of the conversation and all of the talk about bullying, how does the law describe bullying?
Okay, so here in city court, we don't handle bullying cases here. I would point you to the Louisiana statutes that would be in the criminal code. And if we get an opportunity while we're here looking through some things, going through some things, I'll see if I can kind of flip through my code to see that. I am not familiar with the exact statutory language of bullying. We do have some things that we handle here, like improper telephone communications. There's also another charge that we refer over to Caddo District Court, which is a cyber stalking charge. So as we were just talking about social media, harassing people on social media can be a felony charge. Calling someone continuously can be a felony charge. Even texting someone with profane language and threats, that can be charged criminally. So while I'm not 100% sure about the statutory definition of bullying, there are some other things that are encompassed in that statute. But again, the Louisiana revised statutes, and you can pull it up online on the Louisiana legislature website, and there you can find an actual statutory definition.
Okay. And Shannon is giving you a thumbs up. As a matter of fact, everything is thumbs up and hearts are going up for you. So you are certainly knocking it out of the park. Listen, might I ask this question? With all of the impeachment talk going on and that kind of thing, I thought we could kind of tie some of these questions into not taking a quote political side, but as it relates to prosecutor, defendant, and information that's out there. I know when you were dealing with governmental levels, the law is supposed to be the law, but I know there are certain things. So with that stated, with all of the talk and all of the conversation that goes with the impeachment process, XYZ did this, XYZ did not do that. If this were in a quote regular court, would there be as much, might I say, consternation and back and forth as it appears to be right now that is in the political arena?
Probably not. So the way trials and criminal proceedings and even civil proceedings, those are handled in Louisiana by statute. So there are statutes that govern it. For criminal is the Code of Criminal Procedure, and it tells you how a trial is supposed to happen. It tells you what the process and who needs to do what and the time limits that you have to do those things. So the impeachment proceedings, a lot of those rules can be set there are some that are set forth in the Constitution, but then there are other things that the House and or the Senate can decide how they choose to handle things at a particular time. In Louisiana, most criminal matters, all criminal matters, are handled by statute. So you can look and say, well, what is the order of a trial? How do I get witnesses to come to court? When do I have to say I want to object to something? So all of those things, even the appeals and sentencing, all of those things are regulated in Louisiana by statute.
Recently, I had the privilege with you as you won an award at the Domestic Violence Summit of PCI. And will you share with us, please, as it relates to our various laws on the books, and obviously I know you can't go through all of the laws and all that kind of thing, but will you relate with us, please, just how serious the incidences are when it comes to domestic violence across the country, let alone in Louisiana, and how does the law affect the eradication or at least the reducing of some of those actions?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is one of the issues that is near and dear to my heart. We work closely with Project Celebration on working with cases. So there are laws on the books as they relate to domestic situations. Recently, well, not recent, well, I don't know, I think it's 2.5, 3 years ago, at one point you could only receive a domestic charge if you had in fact lived with that person previous. We added a law as it related to dating partners. So if you had somebody and they had dated for 5 years, but had never lived together, then they could only be charged in a situation with a simple battery. Well, that law changed, and now they don't have to live together. But if they meet the other statutory requirements, which is in an intimate partner dating relationship, then those individuals can be charged with simple battery of a dating partner. The statute pretty much mirrors the domestic abuse battery charge. At one point, same-sex couples could only be charged with simple batteries. And even if they had lived together, they would only qualify as a simple battery charge. So the law has changed now, and it does not say that the person has to be, couple has to be either a man and a woman. So there are other categories or other individuals who are now a part of that can be considered domestic charges. So, and also this year, the legislature added a charge that makes it illegal for a person to attempt to take a communication device from someone who is involved in a domestic situation and trying to contact law enforcement or contact any other emergency personnel. So I think that as we move and things change, that we will legislate that and make sure that these things are a crime. Louisiana consistently ranks within the top 3 of states with domestic violence instances. So we have a problem here, but society has a problem as a whole. So it is incumbent upon us as society to make sure that we do what we can to help people in these situations. I say that is something that is near and dear to my heart. I had a cousin who was killed in a domestic situation.
Condolences.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that kind of made me even more determined to do what I can in order to help. And people are involved in domestic situations and they don't know how to get out. There is help. Project Celebration is a great organization. They do a lot of work here in the Shreveport-Bossier area. You also have the Family Justice Center that works to help. So if you are involved in a domestic situation, there is assistance. So I encourage people, if that is your situation, to reach out and seek help. There is help. And I was talking to somebody recently that said, well, there was a time when domestics, and at that point it was more a husband beating a wife, that nobody even blinked an eye at that. It was, okay, this is the way we handle it, and nobody thinks anything of it. But we've changed. Society has changed, and we have to make sure, again, that we are doing all that we can do to protect people who are involved in domestic situations. Something that one of the judges who spoke for me at the Project Celebration breakfast indicated was he's been here, I think, 5 years maybe, and we've handled over 4,000 domestic charges here since he's been here. So they're coming, the flow is unfortunately not stopping, and society needs to figure out, Louisiana needs to figure out what we can do in order to end domestic violence situations. Each legislative session, you'll look to see that they are making adjustments as times change, situations change. So they are making adjustments to the law to make sure that people who are committing these acts, crimes, are being held accountable.
If we can hang out here just for a moment, just for another moment, it's about time for me to let you go. You've been here quite a while now. You know, if in the domestic violence situation, and as you speak of it being near and dear to you, I have been advocating, and I often ask people all the time, you know, what about children of domestic violence situations and the law with your specific role at this point being not only a city prosecutor, but I know that you have your own law practice. And I must say, very unapologetically, I might add, and not knowing the law as a young man, I could have been very easily embroiled with the law from a domestic violence point of view because of the violence that was occurring to my mother that was committed by my stepfather. And and to this day, when I read information and when I see information about children being in prison and going to jail for trying to defend a parent in a domestic violence situation, when the child doesn't even understand the law, doesn't know anything about the law, that for a moment, and as you speak of legislation, is anyone targeting even that area? Because I unfortunately know of a few people right now that are involved in situations, young people that are incarcerated presently. And I could have been one of those young people, and I see it happen all the time. So I know that's a loaded question, but I wonder, is there anything legislatively that we are addressing, or is anyone looking at that in particular?
Okay, I am not sure, and I'm getting some feedback from it. I am not 100% sure about that specific issue, and what I'm understanding you to say is individuals who have committed what it has deemed to be a crime when it was being done in defense of some other person. I don't know specifically with that, but here at Shreveport City Court, we now don't handle any cases that involve domestics where there is a child under the age of 13 present. So anytime there's a child under the age of 13 present, anytime there is a pregnant victim and the defendant knows that the victim is pregnant, Anytime there is a domestic situation that involves strangulation, those charges have to go over to district court because there are enhanced penalties. So I think that research, statistics, everything has proven that children that are involved in those situations, they suffer. And the state is recognizing that and doing what it is. So enhanced penalties come from an abuser who is committing these acts around children. So I think that we have to look at it. And again, society is going to have to do more to protect victims, protect children who are victims. So we have to, we all, if individuals have any ideas about that, contact some of your representatives and talk to them about some possible ways that they could introduce legislation to help better the situation.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, listen, it is getting close to time to allow you to go home and get your dinner. I just want to thank you so very much for agreeing to come on and speak with us. Hopefully you'll return and we'll talk more in depth maybe about specific kinds of law and that kind of thing. But if there's something that you would like to share relative to our conversation, the questions that we didn't ask or our guests didn't ask, please feel free to share it at this time.
Sure. I did want to mention that I do have a private practice, the law office of Monique I. Davis, and we handle civil matters, basically family, divorce, child custody, child support, wills, successions. I also do small business consultations and personal injury. So that is aside from my duties here at Shreveport City Court. That's something that I do separately, but we do handle civil cases. So if anyone is in need of an attorney, my telephone number for my law office is area code 318-734-8855. And you can also email at midwaylegal, that's MIDWAYLEGAL @gmail.com.
I know I'm muting myself here because we didn't want any background noise, but we want to thank you so much for sharing that information. We want to encourage all of our listeners to make sure you adhere to those addresses. You know how to contact. As I said, I'm going to call her today, Dr. Monique, but we know that she's city prosecutor and attorney Monique I. Davis, but you guys want to be sure to make that contact. So again, we are very happy that Dr. Davis came out to share with us, and want to thank all of you that were asking us questions. Shannon and Jan from Venezuela. David, we never saw where you were from, but certainly Shannon from Houston, along with all of our other guests that came on. And as you guys know, this is the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. You can always contact me at www.dyingonmyfeet.com, www.dyingonmyfeet.com. Once you get there, guys, you will find all of my social media information right there. Your LinkedIn, IG, the whole nine. Also, we want to encourage you to make a purchase. Mothers in Their Smin, an introspective look at mothers rearing their sons. There's nothing on the market like it. It's a conversation for mothers, by mothers. We talk about sons, etc. So I want you guys to get that book. You can go to my website and get that book, or you can go to Barnes & Noble. Listen, coming up next week, we have none other than Dr. Winifred Williams. She's a best-selling author. She's an autism advocate, as well as, an Alzheimer's. Well, she does so many things, Alzheimer's, autism, etc. And then following that, January 10th, all of those of you that have been following or that followed the Botham Jean debacle there in Dallas, Texas, we will have none other than attorney Darrell K. Washington, who will be with us on the 10th of January, 7:00 p.m. Come in. You want to ask him any questions, feel free. I don't know that he'll talk to you about the case, obviously, but there'll be some other things. So listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And again, this is the Nobody Asked Me Guy show with your host, Melvin Lars. We want you guys to have a great and blessed evening.